they expect me to walk away from Luton with nothing, I'll make very sure there's nothing to walk away from.
Hello and welcome to the Oak Road Hatter podcast. We're already into the second international break, 8 games down, and a lot of lessons learned so far. Jamie Castle, how are you today?
Yeah, not too bad. I think calmed down from the emotion of yesterday. I thought this. We all know what the Kenny can do to people. So yeah, it was a great atmosphere yesterday. A lot better than Burnley was on Tuesday. Yeah, I think I'll calm down now.
Today, we've got some too good, too bad from yesterday's 1-0 defeat to Tottenham. We've also got our own analysis coming up. We also touch on Andros Townsend, who has been training and played a under-21s fixture on Friday evening. And then we're going to do somewhat of a review of the first 8 games so far as we head into the October international break. We'll start then with too good, too bad. And I think again, the Luton fan base does well to basically have the same thoughts as each other, and I think that's something we've experienced again. So first of all, on Twitter, we had LTFC Dave, who too good were Ogbene impressed once more and held our own against a top side. His too bad was a soft goal to concede and could have probably had more when looking at the balance of the game. And now onto Facebook with Luton Myanmar, who was too good was Bene again. It was very good. And the other one, Kaminsky, saved 2 solid shots. I think that referred to the 2 in the first half, one where he touched it past the post. Very good save. And there was another one in that first half as well. Too bad. 3-4-3, 3-5-2, no way. Change for 4-2-3-1. And a new striker urgently needed. Just touching on that again, Ogbene, Kaminsky, we touched on in the other one, but there was a few comments about a new striker needed. I think that's probably because of that Adebayo chance. I think that probably sticks out in my memory as a very golden opportunity that needs to be taken as a Premier League side. Do you share that same view that a striker is desperately needed in January?
It's one of those things, right, where you don't want to be too reactive after one game. But I guess we're 8 games in now, and it's becoming a bit of a theme in terms of finishing chances. And for as good as Morris has been, he probably still could have had a couple more. And then, yeah, you do think if we need to score 35 plus goals this season to stay up, and Morris gets 15 of those, who's going to get the other 20? So that is probably one of the, not concerns, but question marks at the minute in terms of, yeah, we need some goals. And yeah, again, that Eli chance, we'll come on to it in more detail, but you've got to be putting those away. And if we were to have spent some money on a striker in the window, that could put that chance away, then we'd definitely be on more points that we are now. Especially, I guess, I think like 2020 have a lot of goodwill in the bank for what they've done for us. They've been fantastic, but I think when you start big games like Spurs at home and have £10 million on the bench with Chong and Giles, I think questions are rightly asked in terms of was that 10 million the best way to spend it? When could we have spent a portion of that on a centre forward? and we may or may not get into recruitment bits either today or on a later pod, but that's certainly a theme that you're starting to think about as to was £5 million on Ryan Giles when you've got Alfie Doughty there, was that really the best use of funds for as good of a player that Ryan Giles could be for us? So yeah, I think a centre forward probably is needed, and is at that stage now as to whether we can get one for the price that we need one for.
It's interesting you mentioned there about Giles, the £5 million spent on him, and it's actually had a massively positive impact, but not necessarily Giles performing to the best of his abilities, but on Alfie Doughty. It's quite interesting that we have spent a sizable sum for us, and it's actually benefited another player. It's quite strange to see how it works out like that. We'll conclude with Mark Buckingham on Facebook, whose two good were Alfie and Ogbene. Two fantastic players at the start of the season. We just mentioned Alfie there. Ogbene, he is he's getting better every game, and I can't remember the last player that's probably deservedly been named man of the match in four games in a row, I think it is. He's hit some unbelievable heights already, and you just think as he continues to get used to the system, continues to get to know Kenilworth Road, I think he can hit even higher heights, which is just a very, very exciting prospect. We'll now go on to our own analysis, Jamie, of the game. It was a very, very difficult first 15 minutes. Spurs creating chances for fun. A couple of clear-cut openings, but a lot of strikes went over the bar or quite wide. Richarlison, for the good of us, missed a few decent opportunities, and then that got the crowd going. But I think we could really tell from the first sort of quarter an hour of the game that Spurs are a top side. They move the ball unlike any team I've seen this season. And yeah, we found it really, really difficult to contain them in that first 15.
Yeah, a really, really tough start. As you say, there's a reason why the top four. You look at players like James Maddison and you think, yeah, he's a top level player. You can see why he's in or should be in the starting 11 for England. So yeah, fantastic side. Had some really good chances. They had that one you say with Richarlison at the back post, a bit similar to Eli, in his chance in the second half. We had the one where Son played Poe through one goal and just missed it. Then you had the save from Kaminsky as well. Well, two, one with his leg from Richarlison and one down to his right from, I think it was Kulusevski. So that's four chances that I can remember that they had where you think they probably should have put two of those in at least. So a very, very tough 15 minutes. And I think to an extent, for as good as Tottenham are, I think I take a bit of comfort in terms of mitigating circumstances in terms of the way we were set up. It was different. I mean, back four, it was a very brave call from Edwards to just switch it and go for a back four, especially for the first time against a team like Spurs at home. So it not only was it tough to get to grips with Spurs and how they play and their level of player, but also get to grips with how we are playing in that game. So it took 10, 15 minutes just to get to grips with it. And in the end we did. And then from 15 minutes onwards, we certainly grew into the game. And you could see why he made that tactical change in hindsight after that tough start. So yeah, I think fundamentally we're going to have lots of those periods of 15 minutes this season, especially against Man City in December, Arsenal in December, Newcastle in December. Like we've got a tough December at home. We've got, I think, is it Liverpool's our next home game? So we're going to have periods like that for the foreseeable future at Kenilworth Road, given our next one of home fixtures. So the fact that we can come through it and the fact that sometimes the luck can be on our side is a positive, although obviously we do need to try and start a bit faster and limit those four clear chances to one or two, because otherwise if they do have four chances again, then chances are they do put one or two away.
Yeah, you mentioned the 4-2-3-1 there, and before the game we actually spoke about the prospect of playing a 4-2-3-1. Admittedly, I think we both thought it'd come somewhere further down the line, given Kabore, or I guess all options on the right hand side. When you have Doughty there, when you have Kabore there, Ogbene there, they are wing backs. They are players that benefit a system with 5 at the back, so they have that attacking freedom. But of course, Burke stepped over, played right back, and put in a solid enough display. Something we've come to expect from Burke. His performances are just so consistent, and he's had a really, really strong start to this Premier League campaign. We also mentioned that sort of 2 in midfield when Nakamba and Lokonga were together. That's when we thought, when Lokonga's back, the 4-2-3-1 might actually come out to play, because it gives you Ogbene and potentially Giles or Doughty or Brown on the wing. But it also gives you that sort of solid foundation in the midfield with number 10 in there as well. So it was interesting that it came out as early as yesterday. But, if we do keep acclimatizing to that formation, it could bear fruit in the future where, Lokonga comes back. We potentially add a right back who's more defensively competent than someone like Kabore. But yeah, I think the key takeaway from that is that we can play it, and if we do it again, we're only going to be better for it.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the 45 minutes as a whole, because we switched to a 3 in the second half, but I think on the whole it worked. Obviously, we've spoken about the first 10, 15 minutes where it was tough, but after that, I think it was a good match. I think props to Pelly. I think it was far from the perfect game. I thought he had a good game. I think, especially, I think you have to say that relative to the job that he had at hand, where he was basically tracking Maddison most of that half, and for the most part got to grips with that and tracking him. You get, as you said, Riesberg right back. I mean, he's quickly becoming our right-footed Dan Burn, isn't he, in terms of the way you've got a 6'4" fullback. I think in your head, Riesberg shouldn't be a good right back, but actually he played really well. And as you say, we mentioned in the pub before about that back four and what would the makeup of that back four be, because you can't do Kabore and Doughty because that's just way too attacking. So yeah, we mentioned maybe Burke or Osho when he's back fit is playing in that fullback role, or on the other side do Bell and then have a Kabore on the right instead. So yeah, I think overall it certainly worked, and it allowed us just to press that a little bit higher with that number 10 off Morris, and in that case it was Eli. So yeah, I think for the most part it worked.
And it's also interesting that we've been tactically, formationally very flexible this season. You think about when Edwards came in last season, it was the 3-5-2 that was tried and tested under Jones. He obviously had his own personal tweaks, mainly in possession, but this season so far we've operated with a fair few formations, players having different kind of roles to what they've experienced before. And I think that just bodes well. I think that bodes well for different demands what this season will throw at us. You look at that Tottenham game, you look at the Burnley game, 2 very, very different games from a tactical perspective, but we managed to answer questions in game, which I think's very difficult to do as a Premier League manager when you've got a team like Spurs coming to Kenilworth Road. But ultimately, if we can answer the questions in game like we did, like we switched things up a little bit, like before game having Riesberg as a right back and him dealing with the threat of the Tottenham left very well, it just bodes well for the rest of the campaign. And I think that's one of the key takeaways that we can take away from yesterday. We'll go on to the goal itself, and of course, again, we play a team that go down to 10 men, and we don't take full advantage of it. Basuma receiving a second yellow card inside the first half, and 7 minutes into the second half, Tottenham score. And it's a goal that you could see coming from miles away. Just see James Maddison coming from one side to the other. No one really picked him up. No one really took much notice of him. But in the stand, you could foresee what was going to happen. It was actually really good skill from Maddison. Watching it back, it looked a lot simpler in the stands than it did when I watched it back this morning. It's real good skill. athleticism, good ball manipulation, and then tees up Van de Ven very well. It's still a pretty dodgy goal to concede, though, given how easy it was for them to play into Maddison, then Maddison to do what he does and to pick out Van de Ven. Yeah, it's one of those goals that you want eradicated as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and it stings that it was only 5 minutes after the Eli mischance, right? I think it's just that 5 minute period is probably the deciding 5 minute period in the entire game. Obviously, we covered the Eli mischance, but then on the corner itself, as you said, you could see it a mile off the way that they took one corner on the right, then Maddison went over to the left to take another corner, and then you can see when he was sort of jogging across the face of goal, you knew it because Kulusevski had his hand on the ball and was looking up, and you could see he was going to play it short to Maddison. The managers just play a simple 10-yard pass into Maddison's feet in the box, and then from there I've not really got too many complaints. I think, as you say, Maddison, fantastic technical player, dropped his shoulder. You could say, yeah, you shouldn't get beaten 1-on-1 in the box there, but you just have to appreciate the level of player that you're up against in James Maddison. Beats, I don't know who it was, either Doughty or Pelly or someone on that left sort of channel, and then plays it into to Van de Ven, and yeah, gets to finish. I think it takes a slight deflection and goes in, but for me, it's just that one moment from not stopping that short corner. Because if you track Maddison the whole way, either Maddison then darts closer to Kulusevski and receives it outside the box, and then you've got a chance to push him out that way, or they don't take the short corner and Maddison takes it and has a corner as normal, and then we can defend a set piece. So just frustrating. I think the theme for this season are things like that, and that there's no doubting how hard the players are working, but we just need to work smarter. Like there's that saying, like, work smarter, not harder, and that's what we need to do a little bit this season. If we can keep the levels that we are keeping in terms of work, and hard work, we will be absolutely fine. But there's moments like that where you just need to switch on and just wake up. If you're not alert for 100 minutes a game, you will see goals like that, and goals like that for us are massive. Like if you're 1-0 down to Spurs, it is tough, 10 men or not. We've seen how big the first goal is this season, because the only time we've taken a lead, we've won. So it shows how big the first goal is, and you can't be going 1-0 down to Spurs. I think for all the missed chances that we had, if we go away from that game 0-0, we're happy, but obviously we're still lambasting the missed chances, and oh God, we could have beaten the Spurs, but at least we're thinking, yeah, 0-0, that's a great point. But no, because we didn't switch on and we didn't wake up to that set piece, we 1-0 down, and we come away with nothing.
And you mentioned then missed chances. Of course, we spoke and alluded to the Adebayo one. Jacob Brown also had a decent free header that he really should have been working the goalkeeper with. Do you think we created enough chances for having the man advantage? Do you think there's somewhat of an issue in chance creation at the moment, and maybe not generally creating chances, but the creation of high XG chances?
I think in the first 60-65, I think the answer is yes, we created enough. I think we had, as you say, Eli chance, the Brown header, the Doughty sort of left-footed volley across the face. I think that's enough. But I mean, I think for me, again, for all the good Edwards has with me, the changes yesterday were just, I just don't see the Berry and Woodrow change in particular. I think if you compare the way Chong played and the way Berry played, it's just, but Berry just doesn't have the athleticism that we needed at this level. And likewise for Corley, I mean, he had that one chance where he got in beyond the centre half, and he had to take the shot early because he didn't have the strength or pace to get in the box at first, because he knew he'd be caught up by the centre half. So he took a bit of a damp squid of a shot early outside the box and didn't really challenge Vicario. Whereas if that's an Eli running and beyond, he probably takes the extra touch into the box because he knows he can outpace and outmuscle the centre half. So yeah, I think especially when you had like a Ross Barkley on the bench at the time when Berry came on, and for me, it's the last game before an international break. Why can't you run Eli into the ground? It's just you just need to keep your best players on for a longer period. And as you rightly say, in that last 15 minutes, last 20 minutes, we didn't create enough. I think, that they had a very easy last 15 minutes against us. We barely created anything apart from the odd set piece where there was the excitement of the crowd that maybe we could nick something from a corner. But in terms of open play, there was nothing. And I think for me, a lot of that is because of the changes. I just don't see what Woodrow and Berry adds in that circumstance. There's a lot of talk about Berry sort of doing those last minute ones into the box, and Woodrow having the ability in the box to finish the chances. But against a team like Spurs, you first of all got to get into the box, and with two of those players in the pitch, you can't get into the box in the first place. So having someone like Eli on the pitch to be able to drive you up the pitch was a massive loss when he came off.
Yeah, I do agree with when Berry and Woodrow came on, you lose that athleticism, you lose that pace up the pitch, and they both do a similar job. They're both proven to be good scorers of goals, but I don't get why the pair came on together. Fair enough if one of them came on, because Spurs were dropping deeper and deeper. Loose balls were going to drop to feet, but yeah, I don't understand why both of them came on. They both do a very similar job, and as you mentioned there, the athleticism's not really there in either of them. Both can score, but you've seen it before. We've seen it with Woodrow, the important goals he's scored. Berry, he's grown a fantastic reputation of scoring late important goals, but together, didn't really work. And you mentioned Chong on the bench, somebody that drove us up the pitch. Berry, did he? I don't really remember him getting the ball and progressing play at all. It was. Yeah, I don't think he got his subs right, and Rob has so much credit in the tank, but yeah, I think it was the first time this season where I think he did get his subs wrong, or maybe the second time. But yeah, I still think if Woodrow came on and he brought Chong on, he just done that as a double substitution, we would have got up the pitch more. We would have got into attacking positions, and then it just takes that one ball to drop to Woodrow's feet or Berry's feet, whichever way you go. And yeah, I think that would have potentially led to a higher chance of us getting something out of the game. Jamie, we're going to head into a short break, but when we're back, we're going to speak Andros Townsend and the first 8 games of the season as a whole. We are back for part 2 of today's episode, where we have now reviewed the Tottenham game, 1-0 defeat. And again, it was a feeling of disappointment and a feeling of could have been more. We're now going to look at the season so far, 8 games in, but we're going to start with a transfer rumour. Not really a rumour, because it's been confirmed by Edwards, and he actually featured in the under-21s game the other day. Andros Townsend had difficulty finding a club during the summer, went very close, I believe, to getting a deal at Burnley. Didn't eventually happen, and now he's embarking on a trial period at Kenilworth Road. Andros Townsend, Jamie, ex-England international, 32 years old, a wand of a left foot. Would you take him?
Yeah, it's funny because we spoke about this obviously in the pub beforehand, and I think at the time I was like, for as good as he is, I think this isn't a judgment on him as a player. I think he's a very good player, and he would definitely add to us. But you sort of think, well, he takes away from the chances of if we go with this sort of 5-2-3, and assuming Townsend plays out wide, you've got Chong, you've got Brown, you've got Eli can play there. Like, it sort of feels like we've already got players that can play in that position. So it sort of feels like, do we need him? But having said that, and now with the hindsight of watching Spurs, you think, well, maybe we need someone of his quality to create more chances and even score more chances. So I think my opinion has probably changed from Saturday at 11 a.m. So yes, so sat here at Sunday at 10 a.m. I think probably, yeah, I think we've got a space in the squad. And if there's no one else that we can bring in, either probably central midfielder or central defender or fullback that we could maybe need as a bigger priority, then yeah, I think why not use that last free space on someone like Townsend? You can add quality on the pitch, and I mean we've all seen the way he speaks in public and in the media. He's certainly got that great head on him in terms of adding off the pitch behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, glad you mentioned that at the end, because he does come across really well. For the last few years under 2020 stewardship, it's just about the it's not just the ability on the pitch, it's how they fit in with the current squad. And I think he's got an excellent head on his shoulders. He's somebody that still has maybe not something to prove, but he still is ambitious. He still wants to challenge himself, a little bit like Barkley in that sense, that he's still of still of Premier League quality, but there is more for him to give. So yeah, I do think it would be a good addition. You mentioned the 5-2-3, but I also think the 4-2-3-1 that we played on Saturday could be a sign of things to come. Him on the right, or Benny on the left, and somebody like Chong or Barkley central. That is a potential exciting prospect. And yeah, we mentioned undoubted quality on that left foot. I think I joked that Morris would score 10 goals solely off Townsend assists if he was to come in. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Townsend. I think he's a player that's, of course, wants to cut in on that left foot and curl shots towards that top corner, but can also go down his right and deliver quality. So yeah, be interesting to see what happens. Of course, the deal has to be right. Luton won't stretch beyond what they want to pay. That is for sure. And I guess it's not desperate need to bring in a player that will add chance creation abilities, but we could certainly be benefited by it. So yeah, be interested to see what happens. But yeah, it's got a little bit of a feel of when Snodgrass came in. That kind of added quality, and we all know what a fine impact Snodgrass had. So yeah, interested to see how this progresses. Obviously kept fit during summer because he was at Burnley for a good couple of months, I think. Well, that might be a bit of an overstretch, but he was definitely there for a while. And yeah, a player of Andros Townsend quality at Luton is an exciting prospect. We'll go on now to the first 8 games of the season, Jamie, and it is 4 points from these 8 games, sitting 17th. We're escaping the relegation zone as we speak here now. What did you expect? Did you expect after 8 games to be a little bit more comfortable? Did you expect to be right in the relegation battle that we're seemingly in? Where's your head at reflecting on the first 8 games?
I think reflecting for me is a bit of a case of what could have been. I think if you look at 4 points, I think if we were on 4 points, but we probably should have been on more, which is a bit frustrating because, yeah, I mean, in terms of expectations, we're exactly where we need to be. We're outside the relegation zone. I don't care if we stay up on after game 38 on goal difference. That's fine by me. So if the season ends now, I'm buzzing. But you've still got 30 games to go, and you sort of feel if the themes that have happened so far continue, it's going to be a real struggle because we need to be getting points where we've lost them this season. If you just look back, I think obviously right off Brighton and Chelsea, okay, I think we showed positive glimpses, but we can't say we deserve to get anything from them. West Ham at home again, even that I think performance-wise probably didn't deserve to get anything, but could have still with the penalty. Then you got the Wolves game when you think we should have got something there for sure. But we did obviously, but we got win. But Fulham away again, one mistake, but could have got a point, should have got a point in terms of the performance. Okay, Fulham, if you look at football from a possession basis, they quite battered us, but in terms of chances, they didn't create anything at all. So we deserved a point there. Burnley, I think we weren't quite at our levels, and I think funnily enough, if we switched the performances around and played how we did against Spurs against Burnley, we probably would have got something, and then we would have lost against Spurs with that Burnley performance. So yeah, we won 4 points, but probably should have, and we could have been on 6 to 8 points instead, which then sees us a bit more comfortable. And okay, we're sort of debating over points here, but that's the level of the Premier League. You literally are debating over every single point you can get. So yeah, I think overall happy. I think in the performances, especially I think if you look back, certainly the last 2 or 3 seasons, we've been a club that grow into it. I mean, I was watching Match of the Day, and the commentator for us was Jonathan Pearce, I think, and he said that we were winless in our first 5 at home last season. And then obviously look what happened. I think if you were to say that any promoted side from the Championship didn't win any of their first 5 home games, you'd be shocked. So yeah, I think that we are getting better, and I think we will grow into the season. But clearly, because the season is shorter, we need to grow into it faster.
Yeah, the adaptation process. I think in my head we've adapted better than I thought. I thought there could be a couple more hammerings where we're really struggling to acclimatise to the division. But going through all the games and speaking about how close and the fine margins, it's weird, but it's a good position to be in. Like speaking about Spurs yesterday and potentially should have got a point. I know that the sending off turns the game on its head, but again, Wolves we're talking about could have been 3 points. West Ham, based on that penalty decision, could have been a point. I know that things like this can come back to bite you, but ultimately to be in a position where we are competing well and talking about potential of should have been getting points, that's good enough for me at the moment. And I think you don't quite agree, but I do think football's got a funny nature of delivering back to you what you've been dealt. And I think we're still adapting to this Premier League, and I'm excited about the next few games. Admittedly, they look very tough on paper going into the months before Christmas, but yeah, I do think there is some sort of upset coming. I don't know where, I don't know when, but I can feel it.
Old Trafford.
Old Trafford, imagine that. Imagine that, the theatre of
Could you
dreams.
imagine?
That could be if Ten Hag's still in a job, that could be the I say first, but the first managerial sacking that Luton have played a part in. But I don't know. Could you say it about Lopetegui? I think we've played our part in that as well. But yeah, it has been positive. There, of course, there's been goals that have been we feel like we've gifted to the opposition. Perhaps chance creation could be better, but a lot of our players that have come in are still adapting to each other. But the larger squad is adapting to the Premier League, so I'd say I'm content. Question as well, Jamie: are you more or less confident about surviving from what you've seen so far?
I'm going to sit on the fence and say I'm of equal confidence. I think, as you say, I think I'm happy with how we've adapted in terms of performances. I think our level of performance has been probably higher than I thought it would be at this stage in the season. But the less confident side of things is winning those margins. I think, obviously, as fans, we are learning as well. Obviously, you talk about how managers and players learn about a level. And of course, we've watched Premier League games before, but we're watching them from a different lens now, and the margins at this level are just crazy. And at the minute, we're falling short, and that is what gives me a bit less confidence. Is that going to be a theme for the season where we continually fall short? But if you look at our squad as a whole and you look across the 11, look at players that you think, yeah, that they can say that they're Premier League players now. I think for me, you've got Burke. I think he's a Premier League player. Lockyer almost. I think he still needs to step up another gear. Lockyer for me personally, but I think he's on the way to being one. Doughty, I think, is definitely a Premier League player. I think he's probably one of our most Premier League players we've got at the minute. Nakamura's been excellent. Ogbene's been excellent. Obviously, I think Carlton has stepped up, and I think again needs to step up another gear. But by the end of the season, we will probably look back and say he can actively say that he is a Premier League player rightly, and if we go down, could get a move next season. So we've got 5 or 6 players that in that squad that can hold their head high and actually say that they are playing not just at the level, but they're playing above the level, and that they're probably they probably will get into a lot of starting 11s in the mid-table area of the league, which is good after 8 games, and hopefully we'll get another 5 or 6 in the next sort of 8 games as well.
We usually at this point, Jamie, give you a starting 11 prediction for the next fixture, but ultimately there's going to be a few more pods before we speak about the Villa game. No, not Villa. I keep mixing them up. Forest first, then Villa. But yeah, there'll be a couple more pods in between that space. So from what you've seen so far, and wipe off the current injury list, what would your starting 11 be from all options available from everything you've seen so far?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the 5-2-3. It's just obviously it's the formation that we've played the most this season, so I think it's probably a bit knee-jerky to go to a back 4 after we played it for 45 minutes. So I'm going to go in goal Kulusevski. I think I'm happy with how he played yesterday, and I think he deserves to keep that number 1. Okay, he's made a couple of mistakes, but there's been a lot of players that have made mistakes this season, not only in our squad, but if you look at the likes of Onana at United, right, he's made countless errors and he's still keeping his number 1 shirt. So he deserves to continue. Back 3, I think Burke is nailed, Bell is nailed, and then for me the debate at the minute is Lockyer or Anderson, and that's crazy to say in terms of looking back to game 1 and how Anderson struggled in that first 90 minutes down on the south coast. But I think Anderson has given him a good run for his money, and I think that shows how good that signing has been. Okay, again, you can argue, did we need to spend £3 million on someone that ultimately will start being a backup to Tom Lockyer? But it's showing that actually Lockyer now needs to raise his level, because if he doesn't, then Anderson will take his place very soon, and rightly so. Wing backs, I think Doughty is the one that you can say is nailed completely. For me, I'd stay with Kabore. I think he's had a tough week or 2. I think in terms of the Burnley game. Everton, he was okay, but then I still can't look past the performances at the likes of Fulham, where I thought he was excellent, and I think you apply a bit of an asterisk in terms of he's still really young. It's his first full Premier League season. He only got 8 or 9 games at Marseille last year, so okay, he had a good loan last year in terms of club, but didn't really get the minutes that he needed. So this is really his first full season in professional football of a good level. So he's always going to throw in the odds subpar performance, which we've seen. But I still think he deserves to carry on and almost, as players that you need to play through form. And he, for me, is one of them. You just need to play through form, because I think eventually he will come out the other side as a very, very good right wing back. Then, yeah, midfield 2, for now, you're still saying Nakamura and Lokonga, just because of the level that Lokonga can show. But I think so far I've been happy with how Pelly has played. So obviously Lokonga at the minute is out injured, so it's Nakamura and Pelly. But yeah, obviously with the asterisk of taking away injuries, it's Nakamura and Lokonga. And in front 3, Morris, bang on. Ogbene, obviously bang on. So it's just then who plays in that last position. And for me, again, we've covered the clang of a myth from Eli, but I think he offers us so much through the phases of play. and I think Brown does offer us a lot, but I think Eli is just opposite in terms of what he offers us between the boxes. He's an absolute nuisance. He has the athleticism, and Brown does as well. I think it is a tight one, but I think for me, Eli just gives us that little bit extra. So yeah, front three of Eli, Morris, and Ogbene.
Yeah, there's so many different ways you can go now. With that 4-2-3-1 yesterday, really opening that up as an option going forward. But yeah, I think for now, from what we've seen, is that 5-2-3 that I think we look most dangerous in going forward, and most content as well from a defensive standpoint. I think the only changes I would have, not even changes really, because you had the Anderson Lockyer debate, and I agree. I think the other two, Bell and Burke, are nailed on, and it is Lockyer and Anderson. I just about now I'd still go for Lockyer, but I don't think it'll be too long before Anderson is really, well, and I wouldn't say in the conversation, because he firmly is in the conversation, but I think Anderson's the one that he's progressing at a quicker rate. So I do think Anderson has the real potential to fully emerge as a starting 11 player. Then going to that forward line, I'd have Ogbene on the left, because I think that relationship with Doughty is something that is very fruitful, very productive at the moment. I think that's only going to get better. And I think I'd have Tahith Chong on the right. I still think there's more to get from him, but in the glimpses he's shown off the bench in the last few weeks, I again want to see him sort of a more regular starting 11 position. And yeah, that right wing role for me is where we'd get the most from him, both cutting in, using that wonderful left foot that he's shown a couple of times already, but also going on the outside. He's got a decent enough right foot. And I think Jacob Brown impressed me particularly at the start of the season, but hasn't reached the levels the last couple of weeks. So yeah, again, competition for places all across the pitch, and I think that's another real positive that we can say about this season, is that the starting 11 is not really picking itself. There are a fair few decisions for Rob to make each week. So yeah, at the moment 5-2-3, that team, but I think there's real good potential for that 4-2-3-1 to become the norm. Yeah, whether that's at home or away from home, that'll be another decision to be made should 4-2-3-1 become the norm. But yeah, I think it's a good level of competition all across the pitch at the moment, and that's exactly what Rob would have wanted. We'll end it there for today, Jamie. A big thank you for coming on, and a big thank you to everybody watching and listening. The next game, I'll get this right, is Aston Villa away on the 20th.
No, it's Forest away.
Oh my God, I've done it again. It's not an. I need to print this on my hand, because I can't do it. For whatever reason, I keep getting it wrong. It's Nottingham Forest away on the 21st of October. So again, it'll be interesting to see what that starting 11 will look like, and how we get on against a team that could potentially be dragged into a relegation battle. But until next time, it is goodbye from us.